versatility of this chapter. So
Yeah. Thank you all so much for coming. When we had this idea, that this is the second time we've done one of these. Nick and I first proposed having kind of our open forum last year as a way to get together and, enjoy a chance to talk about what's going on in TechCom, what's going on in our lives, and that sort of thing. Alex proposed a topic that I thought might be good, and just to kind of spark some discussion, and I thought we could just kind of go around. If you have any strong reactions to this topic, I want to hear your thoughts, and we'll make sure it doesn't get too out of control because it's very contentious.
Well,
yes.
then I don't know if you can put the recording on. Well, I was going to say
slightly facetious, but I think it's a good topic. You might have seen in the
I'll tell a future employer I've never heard of the STC. There is no Florida chapter.
Do not Google
Every
it.
person in this call reserves the right to email us after the call or even speak up during the call and cut the cord.
So you might have seen in major news sources such as CNN that they announced that Microsoft Word is going to be marking it as an error if you have two spaces after a period.
Oh, wow.
Does
anybody
reaction?
still listen to Microsoft Word as to what they think is right or wrong?
That was pretty much the overall.
I never knew anybody who did. I wouldn't.
Exactly.
Many people, it's just the default thing. It's there and it does its little angry red squiggle at you, the squiggle of judgment, as it's called.
Ignore all, right?
Yeah.
Well, all I'm going to say is vindication. I remember this was like 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the things I read was if you use the two spaces, it makes people think you're out of touch. Like you don't know that it's changed to one space now that we went to computers and you're sort of telling everybody you learned how to type on a typewriter. And so which is fine, but and I remember getting into such a fight with somebody about that. And I was like, no, I'm telling you, if you use two spaces, people are going to say it's incorrect or, she just came at me. And I was like, so when you said that, I was like, yes, oh my God, we're not in touch anymore, but I want to send an email.
You might not remember me, but we had a talk about punctuation once and I've never forgotten.
She was so adamant about it. And I said, you might be dating yourself. Like people might think you're not up with current technology if you keep putting two spaces because they're going to think like, what did they produce it on? Like, I think she thought I was calling her old, and man, she was really.
There might be a generation.
We're the same age. We're the same age, though. So I was like, we're the same age. How can I be calling you old? Like, I don't get it. So.
Well, other thoughts? Is anyone a fan of the two spaces after a period, or learned that originally?
It's been a journey for me. I was originally taught by my mom on Microsoft Word, believe it or not, to use two spaces. Mm-hmm. And I eventually unlearned that through years of having it ceremoniously beat out of me in education.
I'm about to say, not figuratively beat out of you, just to clarify. Like, this is...
Yeah, very figuratively. There was no violence whatsoever.
But still,
no nicks were harmed.
Yes,
it would be rulers on the hand as you hit the extra space.
Yeah, I've never been a two spaces after a period person. For those who went to UCF, I believe Dr. Applin is a two spaces after a period professor. So,
okay, that just made me cringe.
Ooh, that one's gonna hurt.
I think he might have been changing over time. In all our old documentation at work, we have two spaces after every period because some of the doc was written 30 years ago.
See, it dates you.
Yes, so I tracked it as it goes. So, any other experiences with this topic or thoughts?
Is it bad to say that I really don't care on this one?
I think
it's just going to create more and more squigglies that you have to ignore all, right?
Yeah,
ignore once or...
You can turn off the squigglies, Alex.
Yeah.
I use the one, but if someone uses the two, I just shrug. It's very divisive, isn't it?
How do we feel if you used Courier New, which nobody does, but supposing you did, some mono space font, would it be okay then?
I didn't even think of that.
Well, like the close-up bars in the end, right?
Well,
yeah.
I'd say the only thing I feel strongly about is not to have a mixture. I've seen docs with a mixture,
right.
And that drives me crazy.
Yes,
That's the only thing I
yes,
react strongly to, where I'm like, what is happening? I've seen three spaces, and I'm like, what has happened? This is just bizarre.
Well, there's that weird thing like for products like speaking of Microsoft, where you have .NET. Like if you begin a sentence with .NET, it'll add like an extra space, so it looks weird because it sees the period. And I remember all that spacing stuff. It was very strange.
Yeah. So I think the part that I found interesting about this story is that it's a story. I thought this was very interesting. That I saw it in multiple news sources. That Alex texted it to me, and I was like, "Yes, we should talk about this." I'm like, why is CNN reporting on this?
Yeah.
So I want to hear from WC about this one from the old Martin Marietta style guide. What would they think?
Oh, okay. Someone just
if he's
disconnected.
online.
I really hope that's not WC who just left.
Or Mike can tell us about this. He was around also.
Well, one thing I can tell you is this. I'm not really prepared for this, but I was looking through some stuff, some old stuff, and I found some manuals. I got trained in the Air Force in 1968 on computer. And when I get a chance to look through these, I have a lot to say. I've seen it all. I was
Wait, Grandpa, there were computers then?
When I was at Navy Yard Annex, we had six big machines on one side and 6 on the other. We had a 1401 accounting machine, the punch card input to be able to assistant tape. Everybody's standing there, and the main operator would hit start, and one job would run. Everybody run around to take tapes down. You hit start again. Everybody's ready, and one more job ran, and that filled up a whole room, and now I can fit my pocket.
Wow.
That's right. Or on even on your wrist if you have one of those Apple Watches.
Yeah. So
Speaking of time warp.
Actually, I was a supervisor for the Navy Yard Annex in Warner Robins, Georgia. On I got PCAM machines, punch card accounting machines, key punch, sorter, collator, all that stuff. And they had a 1401 accounting machine. Had a gear shift. It had a gear shift. Shoot. It had a dang it. Yeah, a great big thing that broke once in a while. We had to fix it 2 or 3 days.
But that's the amazing thing about how technology changes so fast. Because really, looking back, it's not that far in years, but just everything has evolved significantly. So I think we can move on to our next discussion topic. Kind of thinking about...
Well, I will add one more thing.
Okay.
Sorry, just because I think this is funny, someone who learned it originally. And I was thinking, I was probably spared Nick's trauma because when I was in high school, that was when they had the old floppy disk computers, and all anybody did was make art with googly eyes, by the slashes and the circles. And I remember my mom always said, Jessica, you're a woman. Never learn how to cook and never learn how to type, because once people know you can do those things, especially men, they'll never let you do anything else. So I never took that class. I never went to do it and so I never learned how to type. So when I became a professional, I think I had a boss who stood over me with my 3-finger Sally. It was like, what are you doing? And I was like, nothing. So I had to learn how to type when I was on the job. It was grueling. It was painful. I had to go to community college because I couldn't train myself to learn how to type. It was terrible. But I learned the only one space because I waited so late in life to learn how to type.
There you go. And maybe we'll be having a different conversation. Sometimes these things cycle around too. It's interesting. So I
Alex, is it too late to offer my opinion?
Oh, yeah, by the way,
go ahead.
It was really unfortunate that you disconnected. It seemed like you were so offended you left. No, just kidding.
It was perfect timing.
Oh, I had to laugh because I punched the unmute and got turned off the phone instead, and then couldn't find the PIN number to come back in.
Oh.
At any rate, but it's interesting. I've been a single space person for probably 40 years.
Wow.
There is a booklet that was published by Robin Williams, not the comedian, in the late 80s, saying the Mac is not a typewriter.
That's the book I read. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry that my boss handed that to me. And he saw, oh my God, sorry.
I used to go round and round with our chief designer who do the executive summaries for us on major proposals. And he always put double spaces into any time that he had text commissioned. And I'd tell him, no, that's not the way it is. It's the way I learned it in art school, and back and forth and back and forth. And no, we were having these arguments in the 1980s. So for Word to take a more definitive step, I'm good with it, but Bo Figliolia is out there somewhere, and he's really going to take it hard.
We were wondering what Voss would say about this, because he was very adamant about the 2 spaces on all the proposals.
Oh God, he's the M and N-dash guy too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he has many opinions.
So he's something. It'll have to be something. Will absolutely be absolute for him on that, but I can't tell you which.
Yeah, well, we'll have future discussions, I'm sure, especially once we can all get back together again. We can have these contentious conversations in person.
Yeah.
We can have the great debate.
So thank you all for submitting questions. Connor, I was actually going to go to your question first, which was about what are the most valuable tools and software for your role or for technical writing. Did you have anything you wanted to further explain about your question?
No, I think that basically sums it up. Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, it seems interesting as well with people with, I guess, various degrees of like when they started in the industry compared to like, I know a lot of people in this group are fresh out of school. So yeah, I guess I'm more curious to like contemporary tools or software that you guys find most useful in your current role. And I guess the second part to that question was whether that was something a skill that your employer kind of provided for you to the skills to develop, or did you have to know that software going into your job? So, yeah.
So I just want to say, we didn't talk about how we're going to do this. Since there are, 13 of us, which I'm so glad. I'm like, wait, can I count? I know I'm counting phones. Thank you all so much for being here. I was thinking for this one, we actually have a great breadth of different experiences on this call and different levels of profession, so I think it's a really good one. I guess we're just going to go, if you want to go ahead and just, I guess, put like a little hand up in the chat if you're not on video, or otherwise just raise your hand. I'll make sure to call on you. That way we can kind of make sure we're not all talking over each other.
I'll go.
Okay. Alex is going first.
Okay. I would say a lot of authoring right now is done in XML, and you need to walk before you can run, right? So I would say open up Notepad and teach yourself XML, because you need to know what the tags mean. Yeah. You know, before you see them on the composer or whatever, you need to know how to tag them. And then once you know the tags, I would say for government work, it's Arbortext, and a lot of the government published style sheets. For anything outside government,
this good. You're like, I don't know what that world is like. I live in the government world. Well, and one thing I guess I want to say, most of people who have learned Arbortext learned it on the job, but had the ability to understand how it all worked and everything.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to know that XML and the HTML as a background, as a foundation for how the information is presented.
Right.
So other experiences, non-Lockheed thoughts as well are welcome. I'm happy to answer.
I would phrase it a little bit differently. Instead of learning the tools, you learn the technology. Mm-hmm. So yes, I want to start with HTML, because it's a limited set of tags, and then move into XML and understand how it works. Mm-hmm. And then when we use Oxygen or Arbortext or whatever, you understand the technology behind it. And I think that will be a big help. And I think also you want to learn the Office products, how they work, because most people are going to be using those. And there's really so much that people do not understand about how they work. So if you can learn in depth how they work, use the coding behind them as well, then you'll put yourself ahead in the market.
Mm.
Yeah, learning some tricks that can dazzle people, even if they're really simple things, can be incredibly helpful no matter what tool you're working with. Did we have any other experiences? All right, Jessica?
Yeah, I'll just add to what Alex was saying, because Connor, that's your name? I remember it. I'm so bad. I'll remember your face and everything about you, but I'll forget your name. It's the worst.
Oh, good job.
Yeah. You were asking about, does your company pay for that? What Alex was talking about with the HTML and the XML, no, they won't. I mean, we have access to Pluralsight, which has training, and my boss keeps trying to get me to do that, and then I look at it, I'm like, this is really for a front-end web developer. Like, I just need to know like the basics and how it works. But that's something you dive into, like Alex was saying, outside of the technology. I mean, you don't want to get stuck in the WYSIWYG viewer. You know, you want to be able to click the XML view. In Flare, I work in Flare, there's the XML viewer where you open it and you see the code and you know what it's saying. And that's something you have to invest in and learn, because unless a company would send you to learn HTML, I mean, I've worked with tech writers who've never taken that step. Yep. I was always surprised, because I learned how to do so many things in the back end code that sped up my project management skills, that I was like, oh, this is easier if you don't mess it up. But yeah, I don't know if you'd get training in that. And I don't know if the danger of, like, if someone puts that on a job description, I always think they're looking for a web developer. So it's like rarely in a user communication job description, I think. I don't know. Maybe it is, or maybe I need to go look on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'd say it depends on the industry and the area too, you know, what they're looking for. I'd say like Flare is what I see an awful lot. And they don't expect you to know everything, but you gotta at least be able to talk about it.
Yes.
Unfortunately, a lot of those tools offer demos and stuff. I know David mentioned Oxygen. That was the first one I learned in college. And I made some really ugly stuff at first. Yeah. Like, just hideous. But it got better. Yeah. And it helped with giving a foundation in those things.
And Connor, I'll just add, just because I remembered too, a lot of these publishing tools use that as their back end. Alex, I think you said that. So that's why we're saying that. And the other one that I loathe with a fiery passion is CSS. You know, CSS is just, I don't know why every time I think I've nailed it, I do something and I'm like, why is it not working? And then, I have a web developer come over and goes, oh, that's at the bottom and it's taking the box and it's in the thing. And I was like, okay, this is like some world I'm not getting. It's like one of your online games, Bethany, that I don't understand what the trolls do or something. I don't know why CSS gives me fits, but it has, you'll wind up working with that a lot more than you think to get your documents format for single sourcing. And I think that's probably in a lot of tools. So it's one of those like HTML, XML, and you're going to hit that CSS at some point. So that was all I was going to say.
No, thank you.
Hey, this is Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
This is crazy, but I only ever had to learn a little bit of XML. And I don't really had to learn any other languages. I had to learn packages, page vectors, and all this kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And one thing I learned how to do, too, was to stick the guy's machine to wherever he hit the space bar and farted. And it's going crazy.
Yeah.
And when he turned on the machine, it looked like it was downloading everything. It's tricks on people.
Things have definitely changed even year by year or every couple of years, depending on your industry and everything. Other thoughts? Sorry, folks are on the phone. I realize I can't see you at all, or you have access to the chat. Anything you want to add on tools, software? Okay. Oh,
I'm sorry. I'll add one more thing. Oh, okay. Because Connor, your other part of the question was, do they expect you, like, will they train you? And do they expect you to know it? I would say whether they expect you to know it or not, they expect you to know it. Every job I've ever started, for some reason, there was a whole bunch of technology they never mentioned that I'd have to work with. And I just jumped in and was like, okay, I'll figure this out. And I was always surprised. And that's where the HTML, XML, CSS thing comes in, because you're like, well, if I know how it worked in that software, I'll figure it out over here. And nobody said anything about it, but here I am. So the better you can get at just figuring out like where to go look. Is it options or preferences? You know, like what are the basics and where am I going to find the answer in the software? Is it a tab system? Is it a general tab? Like that learning that stuff quickly is going to help.
Yeah.
Which is one of those non-specific
One of those soft
skills.
skills, yeah, which is kind of our bread and butter.
Yeah.
And we actually do have opportunities here in the chapter to learn XML as Nick and Julia would know from the newsletter. So,
Yeah.
so if you ever interested, let Julia know. Her and Emily are heading up the newsletter, so they'll put you through coding boot camp, I guess.
Yeah, certain basic HTML title tags, heading 1, heading 2. I know those by heart. I know those in my sleep now.
Lori, I saw you unmuted. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Oh, no, go ahead. You can move on.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Kind of going off of Jessica's point, there are certain TechComm positions, at least from when I was in the market, especially looking at entry level, where it might be where the job description says that this is a nice to have. It could be a differentiator, but you don't absolutely have to. And I'm glad, because if I'd had to, I would have not got my current position.
Well, right, because some of the tools you can't learn until you get the job that uses the tools. So that's the catch-22 for things like Arbortext, especially, right?
Yeah, or even a coding language like HTML, SGML.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully that provides some good answers for you, Connor.
Yeah, thank you guys. That was great. Thanks for contributing, everybody. Appreciate it.
All
You
right.
know, one of the things that involved is web usability. It's not just the coding, but the usability. I mean, new methods and things for making things easier and for understanding the audiences better. So that's evolved along with all this too. And I used to be pretty good at web usability testing. So that's another thing.
Yeah, and I'd say, usability, accessibility are still incredibly important. I would say increasingly so as we progress with our technology. So that's a good point. All right. I know, Alex, we covered your great Microsoft Word topic, but you also just had a note about telecommuting best practices. Are you looking to share, or are you looking to acquire best practices, or both?
Just an open forum as to how everybody's workflow is changing, or what kind of changes have you seen over the last month and a half?
So I can give you my number one piece of advice that I give to people as someone who's been fully remote for a while. Get dressed every day. Do not give in to the pajamas. But that's a very high level tip. But I stand by it. So I was gonna say, who was working from home before this, or at least part-time? All right. So Connor, you are also experienced in this world. What would be your advice or experience?
Yeah, I think it's something with like human psychology. I think your routines are really important. So I found the day seems even longer if you don't keep like your normal like lunchtime or whatever your exercise routine in the morning. There's a temptation to feel like I have the entire day and I can do it whenever. But I think things can really drag on if you change the structure of your day. So I think even days when I would work from home, I would still try to keep the same like wake up time. There's some flexibility with longer or shorter lunch, but yeah, I just found keeping your regular routine as much as you can is really helpful.
Yeah, I would agree. Thoughts from other folks who have experience with working from home prior to this? Wow, we're learning this is all new for so many people.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say, Julia, I know you went from being in an office for how many weeks?
Probably about a month.
About a month to now being fully remote. And you were saying it has been a good transition for you. What have you learned?
One thing that I tend to do is stick to whatever my usual work hours are and have some kind of transition so that I'm not just like, okay, I'm up, I'm going to start work. It has to be something to get me into a rhythm so that it's not too sudden.
Yeah, easing into your day. I can understand that. Nick, are you? I know you're still going into an office.
Yes, they support working from home as much as possible. So I am fortunate enough to be able to work from home every Tuesday. And now actually we've changed schedules so that we have 10-hour days Monday through Thursday. So all of our Fridays are theoretically off. I say theoretically because sometimes I still need to go in or work from home. But I would say what I've learned is if you have the means, such as the space to do so, dedicate an office space at home for yourself, a desk with 2 monitors. Don't work off of your laptop in your bed. You'll get sleepy.
Yes, I would agree. The temptations are everywhere. So I guess I'm going to throw it to Lori, because Lori, I think you've been under a stay-at-home order for the longest in California. How has your life changed?
Well, I have a very limited working space at home. I have a very tiny desk, and I don't have enough room for a monitor. So I do kind of miss, I miss my monitor at work, and we had a really good high quality printer at work, and I have a little dinky printer at home. So my hardware, just except for my laptop, my hardware is really not, the quality that I'm used to for working all day. But I found that one thing that's been gratifying to me as far as working at home is our team has developed a lot of trust with each other. We use Google Meet to chat online throughout the day, and there's not this idea that and the managers are very, very, they're hands-on in the way that they need to be as far as being there to answer questions and provide support. But they are not micromanaging. They're not, worried about that people are goofing off or anything. The level of trust has been exceptionally high. And that's been very gratifying for me because we flow very well as a team. We have some glitches here and there, like a few people, including myself, have had issues with our internet service being too slow or breaking down or something like that, because I don't have the quality of internet service, of course, that I have at the office. But we go with the flow with those things, and people tend to understand when these issues happen. So in some ways, it's been a very good testimony to the strength of our team, and I'm really glad about that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I would say, John, I know you talked about it being a pretty smooth transition from the student side. How do you feel about being a fully virtual student?
Definitely a lot of freedom, and that comes with a lot of time management that I needed. I can relate on the fact that having a good space to work was important, because while on campus, it was the best way I found to work was to go to the library or go to all-night study, something like that. And then I could just get a lot of work done in a good stretch and not have to worry about I'll get distracted at home. But while I'm at home, it's so easy to just stay in bed and get exactly what you're talking about, Nick, just in bed on your laptop. I feel like that's been my weakness. So
same.
Yeah, so I had to do a lot of setting aside time for myself. The workload stayed pretty much the same, but it was really me having to get in the zone to do work.
And John, do you have any group projects this semester, and how have those changed, if you do?
I did. I had one group project, but it was for a class that was already online. So what we did was, we used Discord for it. We set up calls to check in on each other once a week, and we used the Google Doc to compile our work. So for that, it was, there weren't really any changes for that. It was a good transition.
So John, can I put you on the spot and ask you to give a brief explanation of what Discord is? I know Alex was wondering.
Oh yeah, definitely. So it's a chat application, which it has voice chat, video calls, instant messaging. It's really good for just having groups, an all-in-one source for communication of a group.
So is it a competitor to Slack, or what would you describe it?
Yes and no.
Yeah, not familiar with Slack, but I'd say it's competitive with Zoom, because recently it put out you can do video calls in Discord now, so it's getting more and more features with Skype. So I'd say it's up there, definitely.
So, Alex, in many ways, it's similar to Slack, where you set up like a server that has a series of channels. It started very differently. Slack has always been intended for like professionals for business, whereas Discord, partly the name might give it away, was designed as to be an app for gamers or people who want to have casual conversations. So there's a generational difference in the users, I would say, for the most part. But I think it's a pretty good application. FTC has a Discord, and they don't mind me posting things for them, or at least they haven't complained. So,
yeah, that's why I asked when I saw that advertisement. I was like, what is this Discord thing?
I would say the visual layout between the two are pretty similar. You have your channels on the left.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. There's things that's Slack can do that Discord can't, and the other way around. Obviously, Discord has much better use of like GIFs, but that's not necessarily the most important thing to look for in a communication app for some people. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. I was gonna say, Karen, work from home probably isn't accurate to describe what you've done, but you've been self-managing, your own time for an extended period. Do you have words of wisdom to share?
I don't know how wise they are, but yeah. So my situation is a little bit different because I don't work on a team. I'm an independent. So as a freelancer, the only people I have to communicate with are my clients, and it's one-on-one. And as a freelancer, I was always on my own time schedule. So staying home and working is very familiar, and my tools and my supplies and all of that are already in place. But I think that my workflow is very, very different from what most of you are describing, exactly because I've always been freelance, and so it means for me, it suits me a lot. It might not suit a more traditional workplace because I time shift very differently from how you all do, and my work time is afternoon and evening and into the night. So that would not work unless I had colleagues in California or Asia or something, which I don't. So it really, I don't think it applies. And my tools are very, very basic anyway. You were talking about tools. I don't do any design work at all. So I'm almost entirely now doing Word. There are some utilities that I use a lot, and I don't think I could work without them, but and I do use some HTML for some webmastering that I do volunteer. But I don't think my experience can really translate to most of your experiences unless you all go into freelance like I have.
You never know where the world is going.
Right. This is true.
So folks on the phone, did you have any thoughts you wanted to share or experiences on working remote or anything like that?
I got one. My wife just started working from home about a month ago, and she's very strict. She gets up at the same time she usually gets up for going to work. She takes her shower. She does everything the exact same way she did it before. And matter of fact, she might come out once in a while to use the restroom or something. But I don't know, I don't even talk to her hardly. She's because he's at work. And she says, I said, okay. She says, I can't start right now. I'm busy. I got to go. So
she's on the clock.
Talk to her. She's really, really strict on herself about it. And it seems to be working very well for her.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. If anyone wants advice on like really boring, mundane things, I would say like get a good Bluetooth headset, or you could also get good, wireless headphones if you so chose. But the ability to walk around while on a conference call is invaluable if you are on conference calls a lot while you work from home. Being able to just stretch your legs. I know some people have standing desks too, but I have lots of mundane tips to share if you have any interest in those.
I'll raise my hand.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because this, I don't know if maybe we changed the topic, but it seems like we're going to transition because I think what a lot of us are going through, and Laura, you sort of hinted at it, is that transition to work from home because everybody's frazzled. Everybody on your team is, we have a couple of our team members have kids that they have to homeschool. So their networks are having issues and they're like, I'm at my dining room table, they're trying to figure it all out. So we're all sort of learning together, and the companies are learning together. So I have found that to be very interesting. There's there was this thing where we had to be on the VPN. Oh, no, never be on the VPN. Oh, okay, no, we're going to use this tool to conference. No. So it's been all of that, and we've all had to learn. The way that my team worked was very agile based. It was very much cube conversations. So cubicle conversations, excuse me. Mm-hmm. Cube conversations sounds like some Kubrick
like a technical term, yeah.
Yeah, and I always made sure I sat in a spot where I could hear those because it would not come to me. So I kind of miss that, but I think our whole team is having trouble adjusting. Like, what tools are we using? Is it email or not? Like, I think in the office when people were just talking, like, we were very much based that way, and it worked for us, and people liked it because we were all in the same spot and we could all hear each other. So I've noticed, like, we're all kind of, I feel a little out of it because I don't hear the side conversations. And that's just because that's the way my team worked. And I don't even know if that's the most efficient way to work. But it was the way we worked. And now that I'm not there, I'm like, what's going on? Somebody's having a conversation somewhere and I probably need to know something they're talking about. And I used to sit right next to that person, so we're all adjusting and everybody's adjusting at the same time. I've got into a couple of situations where was this long email chain and we're going back and forth. And I don't know why it took so long to dawn on me, but I picked up the phone and said, let me just call you.
Yes.
I don't know why we were getting all nitpicky. And I guess as a writer, I'll always write first, and a lot of people will do that too. And I was like, we should just talk, because we used to sit so close. So it would just be sort of, they would stand up, we do the pop-up thing. So yeah. It's interesting. We're all, I think the whole team is adjusting, and then so we're adjusting ourselves, but we're also adjusting to the team adjusting, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I'd say communication channels for many people have been disrupted. So now it's establishing what the new channels are. And I think, Alex, before we started the meeting, you were kind of referring to how different your meetings are.
Yes.
Now, which used to all be in person, right?
Yes, and now it's kind of the time, maybe it's not respected, or we don't know when the half hour begins or ends, and all of a sudden you got to run to another meeting, but another meeting's still in progress, and you don't want to be rude to the customer or something, or you got to choose your battles, I guess, of when to end.
Virtual call etiquette, I think, varies wildly based on companies and experiences too, what the expectations are. So I can see that definitely happening in a lot of different places.
Exactly. But yeah, we've seen some growing pains when you have 100,000 people trying to get on the same VPN. There's been growing pains as where the first week we still had our old phones on our desks, and they had picked that same week where we started telecommuting to say, oh, we're going to 100% soft phones on Skype, where your extension is going to be your Skype. And so that rolled out, and that made it easier. And then the first week they were saying nobody is allowed to do video Skype. And then all of a sudden I think they bought more servers or something, because now everybody is expected to leave their VPN on 26 hours at a time because they have to push the software updates overnight. So you're just having to leave it on whenever. So it's been an evolution of where they were saying, no, the cloud is going to fall apart, and then it didn't. And so now they're realizing that they can.
Yeah. So I think there's some definite pros that I think a lot of people have seen coming out of this. Like we were talking earlier about the time you get back for those who are commuting, some distance to an office. So there's definitely some benefit there. On the downside, all we have is time now. So, it's finding ways to fill it with activities. But any other thoughts to share on this experience? Folks
I'll let you know.
Yeah.
One of the things
I live with. Oh, go ahead, Lori.
Sorry, we can get back to you, Jessica.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I feel fortunate because we have very flexible tools that enable us to communicate. without a lot of obstacles. For example, we use Google Meet, and I can access Google Meet on my phone or on my laptop. So I can move around just carrying my phone around. And Google Meet is really easy to use. You just sign up and you're there. And, we have Gmail as well. And some people use Microsoft Outlook as a front end, but that's optional. You don't have to. So once again, I can access my mail from different different hardware. And it just makes it easier for me and everybody on my team to move around. So, we've been very fortunate in that we had these tools in place before the shelter in place started. And I think that makes a big difference. And I'm hoping that maybe companies will, now that people have been, required to work from home, they'll come to appreciate the added flexibility that's needed. And, one thing that I think a lot of companies are facing too with all these people working from home now is like, what do you do with your VPN? Because VPNs are being, they're sagging under the weight of all these people, being connected. And that's going to be something that companies are going to have to deal with in the near future. Or actually, they have to deal with it now. Because even as the requirements ease up and people start going back to their physical locations in the office, it's not going to be the same ever again. I don't think as many people are going to be working on site as they were before all of this came up. So there's going to have to be a lot of things that are going to have to happen. And, I found myself, I don't have a very good internet service plan, and I've got a data cap, which is a real pain because I run out of data and I have to pay more for it. And these are all things that we're finding out now because, kids in school, they got to be in online class all day. And, a lot of ISPs have data caps, and it's like, no, the internet is not a nice to have anymore. Right. Even after we go back to school and back to work in our physical locations, the internet is not a nice to have anymore. It's a basic requirement, just like electricity. And so there's a lot of things that are going to have to be tweaked once we get past this.
Yeah, I agree. Were you going to add something, Jessica?
No, I was nodding my head about the VPN because it, and it's what we're all adjusting is, the email comes out, you can't be on the VPN, but, we have differences of what certain things we have to access to do our jobs that require VPN.
Right.
So they want us off, but then we have to get on. So it's just one of my constant things of, I have to go do something. Oh, crap. And I'm like, why won't it work? What's wrong? Is my network an issue? And it's like, no, I have to sign into the VPN and I have a VM and it's just the way they set it up is I can't, if I sign on to the VPN, I get kicked off my VM. So if I need to go do something, and sometimes they're related, sometimes I need to go get something that's on a VPN to get to my VM, but I have to shut out of one and then shut into the other. It's like, it's this interesting thing because they don't want us overloading the VPN. It was very interesting how it's sort of come around, and I'm sure it'll settle down, but
I have a brief funny VPN story. My husband works in restaurants. He is wonderful at what he does. He is not a technology guy. And I only recently found out that he had no idea what I've been talking about when I referred to the VPN. And I lost my RSA token not too long ago. Like I have a hard token for it. And he thought that was the VPN. So he was like, did the cat take the VPN? I'm like, no, that's something, it's related. No.
I'm sorry. That's just so funny. I want to put that in an email tomorrow. Yeah. Is the cat got the VPN? Cat got your VPN?
What's the matter? Not cat got your tongue. Cat got your VPN.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, to be fair, he's not that far off. They are related. Right. And the RSA token was never found. I have no idea where it went. It could not have left my house, and yet I cannot find it. So, yeah, wonders of working from home. Things go missing, even if you just have cats.
So which cat took it, do you think?
I have strong suspicions it was Topher because he steals everything, but I cannot prove it because I don't have security cameras in my house just to watch my cats. But he is the cat that just takes stuff because
he's gonna bring it to you one day randomly.
I'll just show up or I'll wake up, it'll be like on my pillow or something. I'll be like, where have you been all these months?
No, mine is attached to my badge. It just it goes where I go. So yeah.
Mine has a little key ring, but normally I just keep it in a drawer next to my desk. But occasionally I take it out when I have to put the token in. So Yes, it is my
Sorry.
own fault.
No, we went to a passcode system, so I have to get the passcode, but it's like weird. I have to sign in, and it's the same for the VPN as the VM. So I nobody knows why we have these weird processes,
what's the security benefit?
Yeah, but I remember back in the day when I had that RSA token, and I remember those few times when I worked from home, I was having like PTSD and laughter at the same time, because I was remembering like the mornings when it was like 7 a.m. and I was like, where is that number? I can't see it. Like I was so tired.
Yeah, we switched to soft token, so I did not need to get a new hard token, which I am relieved about. So I don't have another tiny object that can be stolen by a cat.
But you can't read first thing in the morning. Sorry, I just had that visceral memory.
I'm glad to provide a great story.
They once sent me one that was one number was like broken at at one of the corners, so you didn't know if it was a 4 or a 9 or a 3.
So it was just a guessing game.
And then it would time out, obviously. Yeah.
That's because you want your experience of logging into your work computer to be a lot like in a thriller, some sort of action movie where they're like, "Quick, give me the code."
Yeah, so you can yell out loud, "I haven't even had coffee yet." You know.
So. I think we had a lot of good discussion on that topic. Our next topic was from John about searching for tech comm jobs as a student. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but do you have anything else you wanted to add to that, John?
No, pretty self-explanatory, and it's something that, I'm wondering, especially in the context of now with things going remote, if any tips on like how to reach out to places, how to find out good remote opportunities, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to put Julia on the spot because I know she has, in the relatively recent past, granted it was a totally different time then, but still relevant, was searching for a job.
Yep, and I have a quick question for you. Are you still a student or have you just graduated?
Well, I'm still a student, finishing up my sophomore year.
Yep.
He's got time.
Yep. So what I did to get my job at Lockheed when I was still a student is I went to, I forget the building, but it's one of the business buildings. It's over on Memory Mall. You should be able to find it on a map and plug it into Google. Find their website, go, and I'm pretty sure it's a contact us button. You can talk to somebody and they'll walk you through how to get set up on Handshake, which will help you get an internship. But once you graduate, you want someone like one of us to help you join the mentorship program. It's the only reason I have a job right now.
I think you're referring to career services, right? Would that be correct?
Yes, that one. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Okay.
Either career services, or I think it might also be called experiential learning.
Yeah, I think I'm just looking at their website now for UCF. For those who did not go to UCF, I'm sorry, this is a UCF-specific piece of advice, but it still holds for a lot of colleges. But currently, they do not have any in-person activities. That makes sense. But they do have a career toolkit for COVID-19. Well, that's fun.
That's perfect.
Awesome.
But I guess... Yeah, I think Julia's experience was knowing a person is incredibly helpful.
Yeah, that sums it up.
Having good networking. Other experiences from people who have job searched or have searched for a remote job before? Okay. If it's just me, then I can share my experience because I got this job that was remote. Oh, go ahead.
Yes, this is Bernard. I just recently, actually back in, like just before the lockdown began, I started a remote internship, which is my very first.
Congratulations.
My very first internship, yeah. So.
And how was the experience of finding that internship for you?
It was a little weird. I found it. I found it on Indeed.com, and I had to sign up for this website. I had to create an account on this website called Chegg.com, which is sort of a site where students can find different learning resources and internships and whatnot that I didn't know they existed. And it was a little frustrating because the person who initially contacted me ended up quitting her job.
Oh no!
And I after our initial Skype interview, I didn't hear back from her for a couple of weeks, and I had to constantly call the HR department to find out what was going on. It was a very frustrating experience. But after I essentially kept pounding the door, I finally got a second interview, and I got the position. So. So far it's been a pretty valuable experience. But it was a very frustrating initial interview experience, to be honest.
So you would say to not give up even when things are difficult?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It did cross my mind, but I was determined to, I had this attitude like it's now or never. I need to really start creating up my portfolio. That's something I told myself I was going to do at the beginning of the year. So yeah, I mean, failure wasn't an option.
Yeah. And sometimes that's the right way to go. Just to push yourself and see where the opportunities materialize. So, John, were you thinking about internships or just any opportunities in general? Just to clarify.
I'd say internships mostly, but also general tips would be good.
Okay. I know a few people have gone down the Lockheed internship route. Anyone? I guess, Alex, you could probably speak to what that's like.
Sure. And I think that is directly through UCF. We have the College Work Experience program. Julie, is that what you went through, or was it a internship?
That's what I did.
Yeah, and Nick will attest to this. We like technical communicators applying to that program because in the tech pubs world, you will learn everything you need to know to join as an entry level position. You'll roll right into that. Mm-hmm. And yes, we've had several different degrees come in through that program, but we like to see technical writers because there are people. So
mm-hmm. I know that has turned into a long-term position for a lot of people. Were you going to add, Nick?
Oh, just that it is a big plus whenever a hiring manager through that program sees someone coming in having that tech comm or English degree background. It really makes a difference toward getting that position.
Yeah, Nick, you had an internship, right, at a different company?
I found mine through at FIS. Mm-hmm. It was specifically a 10-week summer program. So perfect for my needs because it had a finite beginning and end, and I could do that during the summer semester and then go right back into continuing on at school. Mm-hmm. This is more of a hunch than something I've personally looked into, but in terms of the question of finding an internship position or a job, I feel like there are certain factors. I know Lockheed Martin, and probably there are other companies too, especially in the Fortune 500 realm or essential services as defined by the government, has not slowed down on hiring. Like there are still new jobs being created out there. So I think part of it really is just, someone mentioned this, perseverance, right? Mm-hmm. Also looking at when a job was posted. If it was posted pre-COVID, that might be different than a job that was posted more recently. And some jobs, while they may or may not say anything about telecommuting, that doesn't necessarily mean that telecommuting is ruled out unless it says no telecommuting. So part of it might be applying to a job that looks interesting and just asking the interviewer that question. What's your policy on telecommuting?
Yeah. And especially now, I'll just add, especially now, that one of the things that will come out of this, to Karen's point earlier, that things won't be the same, is I think that whole you can't telecommute thing, because there's some companies who are so weird about that you couldn't telecommute. I think that will go away. I think that a lot more. I mean, maybe not totally. There'll be some places that will say no telecommuting, but now that we're all going through this experience, That's what I'm hoping, is that you don't have to fight a telecommute battle on top of a job search. I think that should go away. Let's hope it does.
Yeah. So were you gonna add something? Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing. I think Nick made the point about checking the date a job was posted, just specific to like the stuff going on now. So my current job I'm staying at for about 6 more months, and so I'm just doing like initial applications now, just to just get in the practice of my portfolio and everything. And a job I applied to about 2 weeks ago, I reached out to the recruiter on LinkedIn. She wrote me back yesterday and said, "Oh, I'm really sorry. Our company just did a huge round of layoffs. We're not going to be hiring for like the next year." And the job is still posted as like active, like they're still seeking it. So I think so many places are in transition right now. So I think that's a really good point about kind of seeing if it's just now been posted, then that's probably something more to invest your time in.
There's also companies that aren't like posting a lot of jobs necessarily, or are about to post jobs but haven't yet. If you talk to someone who knows, like if anyone's interested, I know Oracle is hiring remote employees right now for tech writers, which makes sense. Their infrastructure is heavily relied on for us to do business. So just checking in with people you know and saying, "Hey, have you heard of any opportunities?" is incredibly valuable. That's how, like Julia mentioned, that she got her job through the mentoring program, but really it's because I reached out to someone else who said, "Oh yeah, actually we do have a position at our company." And I was like, "Here's Julia's resume. She's wonderful." And they hired you basically right after the interview.
Yeah, it was 2 hours later they called me and said, "Hey, when can you start?"
So, but I think there's going to be things that will change, not only with having more positions that probably will be remote or partly remote. We'll be doing virtual interviews, whether that's on video or by phone. And it's a very different ball game from interviewing in person. You have to really make sure you're maintaining a good energy level that you wouldn't have to do in the room. Like, that's very different. The job I have now, I interviewed entirely on the phone with the manager. I did go through a panel interview on site because I originally was hired to be an employee who was in an office, but my manager was in an office in a different state. So I actually didn't meet my manager for about a year after I started working, because we're pretty comfortable with being remote. But being able to respond and engage on the phone, I would say practice that. That sounds weird. It's very different from just chatting with someone on the phone, but to build up your skills and your confidence with presenting yourself on video and on the phone and that sort of thing is just something that's a skill I think more of us are going to have to cultivate, which is hard for a lot of us who are introverts and who prefer to wait quietly.
I also mentioned this on another one of these meetings, but there's a YouTuber who has a playlist of helpful tips. I could drop that playlist in the chat bubble if you like.
Yeah, that would be great.
Let's do.
Yep.
And I saw Alex shared in the chat that, Kayak said it's time to check in for your flight.
Yes, it is.
Oh, I'm sorry. You'll get to travel again one day.
Someday.
So did that provide some useful information for you, John?
Yeah, definitely. That was like a lot of great information.
Hopefully not too much.
Oh no, never enough. Everything is good. And also you mentioned, what kind of company is Oracle?
Oracle, I would say just Google Oracle and you'll find out all the different technology they support. They are integral to so many different business applications. So I could send you information if that'd help. But it's because I know someone who works there.
Oracle is actually they're headquartered in the city where I live, or near me. Oracle is primarily a database company, but that is a very broad definition. But but it mostly applies to databases, big data, data management, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, just wanted to add kind of to the point. I guess probably stating the obvious, Amazon is doing a lot of hiring right now. Like a coworker of mine is in an interview process for a tech writing job with Amazon. So I think if you're looking for something current, I feel like there's probably a logical line you can follow of companies that are like doing more business right now. So.
Yeah, it's true. And I know, John, it's a little different for you because you're kind of taking a longer term view, but it seems like now would be a good time to start cultivating some, I guess, sources and opportunities.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of doing now, especially since there's a lot of time, just looking at all my options, looking at different sources. So like all these resources are going to be really useful. But thanks, everyone.
Yeah, happy to help. So we had a few other questions that were submitted by people who didn't end up joining the call in the end, but I think, I don't want to say the best question. They were all wonderful questions, but the one that really struck me was the topic from Lori, which I thought would be a good one to discuss now, which was more positive, which is how will our profession emerge stronger as a result of this experience, which I think is a very compelling thing to talk about. Does anyone have any immediate thoughts aside from, I guess, the work from home opportunities?
So I think last year we started dabbling with video-based task-based videos as part of our documentation, and I think with everybody going kind of remote, I think that's going to continue, and that's going to get more play and more action. At least I hope so. In my environment, again, it's the government. They need to make sure that everything's secure and everything. But I'd like to see it go that way because, again, it's the YouTube generation. They like to consume the content in short bursts. So.
Speaking of which, Julia just shared YouTube playlists in the chat for anyone who is interested in those.
Perfect.
Other thoughts on this? There's a lot of different directions. I think we know the world is going to change. We can make some guesses as to how things are going to be different. We've all talked about, how work from home has to be a more viable alternative for a lot of people, but what other things might be different?
I think just in general.
We'll do Nick and then Lori.
Just more of in general, and this also encompasses work from home, but also schedule changes and process changes. I think that a lot of companies and a lot of us personally are not easy to convince to try something new. But once you do, well, sometimes it's horrible, but sometimes it becomes so normal that suddenly, because you were forced to think outside the box, you're better off for it, and it just sticks.
So you're saying just learn to be more adaptable in general and embrace the change?
Yeah, look at a very small, granted, silver lining of this is some things will improve because of what we're all going through right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think someone had mentioned just off Nick's point about employers. I think will have a bit more trust in employees to be able to work independently and see that people can, actually be self-motivated and have a high level of productivity working on their own. So I think that's definitely a positive.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Lori had something to add.
Well, I was just going to say, Nick, just to follow along with the point that you were making about, thinking outside the box, things like that. Because we've been working in offices for so long, we're kind of used to the more complex level of things where we have lots and lots of room, big servers, big, larger machines, wonderful printers, all of this stuff. And we're used to being at our desks. And now that people have been, required to work from home, they have far fewer options. And their tools are not as sophisticated maybe at home, where at work you might have access to all kinds of stuff. And that, to me, there might be a silver lining in that, because one thing that's been concerning about for me over the last maybe 10 to 15 years is that we have a lot of new tools, and they seem to be getting more complex, not less complex. And we're being inundated with tons of options now for different tools. And I think it can kind of make your head spin almost. And I think the fact that we've had to work from home under, limited circumstances with more limited hardware, more limited access, I hope that will give us a greater respect for more simplicity, more process efficiency. more fleetness of foot, to not have so much unnecessary complexity in our work processes and how I'm really hoping that will be something positive that comes from this.
Yeah, that's a great point, Lori.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense considering
Yep.
things just sort of build up over time, right? Processes, tools,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah, they do.
It's to be like a Frankenstein's monster, you keep sort of just adding things onto it.
Yeah.
And later you go, I'm sure there was a reason we did this.
Well, there's, I'm sorry, I was thinking there's the, coders and techies are king, right? And they're always like, well, you get the latest box. I sometimes I talk to my boss, I say, well, some of our customers are way out in the boonies and their internet connection is not as fast. Why are we assuming an always on? I think we had some kind of a requirement that it could ping it every 30 seconds. I was like, well, what are you going to do for some guy in Arkansas who, doesn't really have that fast internet connection, to Lori's point? But, they always assume people do. And there must be something wrong with you if you don't. But I think now, to Lori's point, everybody's going through this and they see, well, not everybody does. And, so maybe it'll tame that beast a little bit. So when you say, well, you have to think of slower internet connections or people with not as big servers and whereas before they would have just, shunted you to the side, like, who are you? I think I had someone say to me once, well, you just get a gaming laptop. And I was like, who's going to do that? And so maybe that'll be heard a little bit more when you think about it, that's I think maybe that was what you're getting at, Lori, but that was what I picked up from what you said.
Yeah, I think that's true because, we just, we've always assumed that, the bigger, the more complex, the more options we have, the better. And we're finding out that that might not necessarily be true.
Yeah, I was going to add this. I don't want this to sound backhanded, but I know it's a struggle in our profession to make sure our work is recognized because often when we do our work well, it's invisible. Good communication is typically something people look at. It solves their problem and then they move on.
And I think it's magic.
Right.
I'm actually having a conversation with my boss. Like, I'm not a magician. I have that wand, but it doesn't do my job.
There's a lot of work that goes into it. In a way, I feel like the playing field in many ways has been leveled, especially for people who move fully remote, because I feel there are other people whose work is also becoming more invisible now, or at least less visible. So I feel like that sounds like a negative. I'm like, yes, they're now on our level. we all are having the same opportunity to demonstrate the value of our work and sell our companies and our stakeholders on what we produce. And what we produce is even more valuable. The more our way of life depends on technology, the more people like us are essential to everything. We can say systems are going to get more intuitive, and in some ways they are, but they're always going to need some sort of documentation or communication or training in order to help people use the things they need to get their jobs done. So in a way, I think we're uniquely positioned to provide more and more support as we move forward in this new world.
And honestly, somebody's got to write the policies.
That's true. Were you going to add, Lori?
Oh, I was just going to say, Bethany, I don't think what you're saying is negative at all. I think actually we're really getting our empathetic muscles stretched.
Yes.
Everyone.
That's exactly what I should have said. Perfect.
Yeah, we have to. We're learning that people are coming to this environment from all different places. From tiny little studio apartments to big houses to garages to rooms with cats that meow all the time.
Very, very vocal cats.
So there are all kinds of
RSA tokens,
Yeah. So, I think that's going to be good for everybody to have this type of exposure because it's going to help us be more empathetic to what it's like to work in a variety of situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. I know we haven't gotten to hear from some of the folks on the phone. What thoughts do you have about how, the nature of our profession might emerge stronger from this? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
WC, I'll weigh in a little bit, and I don't see it. I do not see it.
Okay.
I come from a background of working large proposals, for example, and the only way to meet the schedule is to basically vote with your body. It's headquarters in the saddle. I'm not waiting for a phone call. I've got to go actually look at a person in the face and say, I need your answer now. There's just a lot of things in the current dynamic I'm sure are not done as well at Martin, for example, in that circumstance. The other loss is I found that I really can't write at home. Lori's cat's notwithstanding, but the patterns of the family, the interruptions of the family, dinners at such a time and this kind of thing. I could control my space by staying at work if I had to. And certainly during my career, there was a lot of overtime as well. But even as I got involved with STC, I'd usually stay Monday night and work like STC board work on Monday nights at work, because I could just not bring myself to be in the mood if I went home. And for those of you who can actually have the mental discipline to work as effectively at home, that's great. I know I couldn't.
Yeah, I could definitely see that it's different. I am, for one thing, I know it depends on what your family situation is. I do also have a cat family like Lori. Fortunately, they don't have thumbs, so they can be closed out of rooms if absolutely necessary and unable to open doors. They do have a strict meal time, though. That's true. But right, I would say that's one of the great challenges of this for a lot of people. And we kind of mentioned earlier, like how it's a great benefit to have your own workspace set up. I'm lucky to have my own office that is completely separate from the rest of the house where I can just go and work. But I know it's not something that's available to everyone.
Yeah, when push came to shove, and then I'll get off, is I couldn't get an answer from a director one time. But after he went to the restroom, I followed him in. You can't do that.
No, you cannot do that.
My answer, and I got my answer. You can't do that remotely. You just can't.
Yeah, that is different. I guess that kind of goes back to the trust piece that Lori was talking about that is developing for some companies, but I know it also differs by industry and by what your subject matter is significantly.
Mm. And I presume that you can't do that if you're differently gendered from
yes, that's another thing. I mean, I guess you could,
right.
but it would be very different.
Last 15 years, that didn't work as well. That's true.
Well, I remember I had a job where I sat right where the hallway to the bathroom was. And I was like, no, I wanted to be situated because I was like, well, I can't go in the men's room, but I know where the door is. And they've got to go eventually.
I'm realizing I have had very few physical interceptions in my work life. I tend to be more of a quiet, I was going to say nagger. That sounds mean, but I will come back. I will return on IM and email and phone calls until I get what I need. So persistence tends to be my approach.
As per my previous email, right?
Right.
I'm sure you just missed my previous email, but it's my slight revised version as per my previous email. But yes, the meaning is the same.
CC their boss, and now it's high priority.
Yeah, I hate having to do that. I always feel like, I don't know, like a narc. but sometimes it has to be done.
But
usually you stop just short of the read receipts, though, right?
Oh, I don't do read receipts. I feel like that's a bridge too far. And my company, based on our culture, but it's different based on each company. I know.
Mm-hmm. I have one more thing to say. I got to hang up, but
oh yeah, go for it.
I need to talk about. I need to say this. You got to have the right. Not only have a good attitude about accepting change, but go beyond that and see what change is coming, and even invent some yourself. Mm-hmm. Our chapter, the Florida Chapter, has done an outstanding job of seeing what's coming, adapting to it early, and now being comfortable with what's going on. I'm just so proud and pleased. There used to be 7 chapters in the state of Florida. I think it was 7, maybe 6. Now there's only 1. The other chapters either couldn't or wouldn't or whatever go with the changes, accept them. There's some people that actually even fight against change. But our chapter is such a positive attitude, and there's a great job of foreseeing what's going on. We are now the only chapter in the state of Florida and there are people from other parts of the country that want to join us. So I'm just so proud of you guys. That's all. So that's what I want to say.
Oh, thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes, and I agree.
See you guys later.
All right, bye, Mike.
Bye, Mike.
Have a good night, Mike.
Yeah, I realized I didn't give anybody the STC Florida chapter pitch when we started. I just sort of jumped right in because I was like, let's just go ahead and get into the topics. And, you know, I was excited to talk about some of these things. I know we've got just a few minutes left. I did want to say thank you all for joining. I know this is a little different, and as much as I would love for us all to be getting together in person, I still find these interactions incredibly valuable, and having the opportunity to talk about work, but not with people I work with, is incredibly wonderful.
Absolutely. It's important.
Because I think it's easy in these times for our world to get so small, you know, that it's nice to engage with people who have different perspectives, even if our perspective on the broad, you know, sweeps of things that are changing is similar, but, you know, we each have our own unique story.
Right.
So, Bethany, if you could give one last pitch for the summit coming up.
Oh, yeah. So, I realized I didn't go over events or anything. I just went right into it. The STC Summit is going to be fully virtual this year. So, instead of going to Seattle face-to-face, we will not be going to Seattle for obvious reasons. It's going to be completely online, and you'll have access to all the same speakers with their presentations. Everything is going to be recorded, so it'll also be available on demand after the summit. So if there's sessions that you wanted to attend but couldn't because they're all going to be, hosted at certain times, you'll have access to that information, and they're also doing networking and that sort of thing. I can send all the information on that for those who are interested. Also, separate from the summit now, Alex and I are going to be hosting the Leadership Day, which is free and open to any STC members. So we'll be sharing more information on that soon, which is a great event with different leaders from different communities, so chapters and special interest groups who are going to share their experiences. We're going to get to acknowledge awards like our very exciting CAA award, Platinum for STC Florida. Woo! We won't get to stand at the front of the room and have our picture taken. I felt like that would not translate well to a virtual call. But I would encourage you all to consider attending if you're interested in getting more involved in leadership. Also, I think, Alex, you want to make your quick pitch about nominating committee opportunities?
Sure. It is that time of year where we try to identify leadership for the next year. We do have two openings on the board this year. Usually our board is 5 directors. 3 directors will be returning for next year. So we have either secretary available, vice president, or director at large, whichever you would be interested in. So director at large is a pretty open position where you can even go for committee chairs. So, but you stand more as a advisory role to the administrative council, but you do get a vote. So you're kind of the voice of the chapter members in that way. But if you are interested, email me at alexrgarcia.stc@gmail.com. Just let me know if you're interested, and we will get you on the slate. So
yeah, it's a great resume building activity. Our main activities, aside from like what Alex mentioned, are we have monthly administrative council meetings. You don't have to be a voting member to attend those. Like Julia, I know, and John have both been attending and contributing to chapter business. So we'd love to have more participation there, even if you're not looking to run this year. Let us know if you'd like to be included on future invites. Just to see what it's like, I guess, kind of behind the scenes. It's nothing terribly exciting. Oh, hi, Karen. You heading out?
Hello. Yeah. I wanted to add something to the call.
Oh, please do.
So we have many opportunities in the chapter, in addition to the administrative council and voting membership thereon, including committee heads and members of committees. And I urge you, if you are interested in participating, getting your toes wet, that's a very, very good way to start. You don't have to be in charge unless you want to be. You can be a helper, and it gives you a sort of behind the scenes, a little boost up. It's good for your resume as well. But I did want to mention that according to our bylaws, in order to be on the actual voting membership of the Administrative Council, You must be a regular member or a new technical communicator, but not a student member. So if you are a student member, you have two options. One is upgrade your membership, pay a little more, and you too can be eligible for a voting position. The other is to take a job on one of the committees, and you may find it really suits your skill set, and then positions you, and you can attend. Anybody can attend the administrative council meetings, but you get a real sense of how the chapter works and how it's how the year is planned and how the governing and who people are. And then when you show up either at meetings or in a venue such as we're on right now, you see people and you say, oh, I know that person. You know, I've worked on a committee with that person, or I've heard that person's voice before. So it really is a fantastic way to integrate into the professional community statewide and at our chapter level, which is a great boost for your career. You can learn an awful lot. And being on the administrative council, either as a voting member or as a sit-in, is a tremendously rewarding experience. And no matter your level of professional expertise, it's just a great way to get into things and meet people and network and learn about how things work. And you don't have to be the one in charge if you don't want to be.
Absolutely. Like, for example, we were doing Zoom before Zoom was a thing.
Yeah.
You know, we were just, when the whole world went virtual, we were ready.
Yeah, we were on the cutting edge. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, very excited.
The bleeding edge, like
yeah, and it means you get to spend more time with us every month. You know, we have these calls. Karen's already scheduled the next one for May, so it'll be calendar
May 7th. Not April, like I said in my notice, May.
That's okay.
Mike contacted me and he said, did people really vote for April?
No time travel will be involved. But I know
Right.
I've engaged with several of you multiple times, like outside of our administrative council meetings, you know, and chapter meetings and in between. So we'd love to see more of you and, you know, help find a way for you to, you know, express your talents with the chapter if you're interested and build portfolio and resume and, you know, just get to, you know, work on some great projects and feel a sense of community, which I feel is something we're all looking for right now because it's easy to feel disconnected. So
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're interested now, you can say something or you can email.
No, I'd love to be a sit-in on one of those councils just to see how you guys work, because I think you do a great job. And I've been involved on STC boards before, but it wasn't a great experience. And I was like, how do these guys do this? So I'd be really just curious to watch and learn from you.
I'll put you on the invite.
Yeah,
sounds good.
Yeah. All right. I guess we're just past 8:30. Any last thoughts or things you guys wanted to share with the group?
I do want to leave you with a question,
Sure.
because it's been in my mind since Lori brought it up, and I have no answer. And though you've gotten to know me a little bit, the fact that I wouldn't have an immediate thought is like, it's shocking me. And I was like, maybe they have the answer, because I think we talked a lot about how this COVID quarantine situation changed the way we work, and now we're adjusting. But how will it change our output? Will we get different demands? I mean, Alex, you mentioned videos, but I was just trying to think, how will people ask for different kinds of documents and different formats based? I don't know. Like I couldn't answer it in my own mind. So I was like, I just thought I'd leave everybody like, maybe we all need to chew on that.
Yeah.
Well, I think what I was thinking is the rules of the world are going to change, and we're going to have to write them. So
that sounds so dramatic. That's like a slow clap moment from Alex.
You know, that's us. We're gonna swoop in there with our words, and we're gonna say, you know, these are the new rules for the world
this summer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly. I was thinking that needed the movie guy voice, but I was just thinking that may be something that we all ponder, because I couldn't think of it, and so I thought that would be a good thing to leave on. Like, oh yeah, how is that going to change what they want me to write?
Yeah.
So
well, that's it. That's a good question. Any other last thoughts?
I think the operative word came up earlier in the call, empathy. Right now, there's a lot of different stories out there that we're really hearing. There's a lot of meat to this time. I don't know, like just there's a lot will be written about this period, and I think just exercising empathy for others as much as possible will get us all through, because we're all in this together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think of the song from High School Musical, which immediately betrays how old I am.
That's in my head too.
And I hope it is for the rest of the night. Enjoy, everyone.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll leave it at that. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much. It was great to get to chat with you, and I think we had some really good discussion, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month. Or
Great.
Sooner. So take care,
It was
everybody.
so great. So
Bye.
great
Bye,
call. Good
everybody.
night, all.
Yeah. Bye.
Good night.
Night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.